welcome to my channel. My name is Kathy. If you are new here, thanks so much for stopping by. If we've painted together before, welcome back. I'm glad you're here. Today's video is on how to paint a wiggle leaf. Now, if you've been with my channel for a little bit, you may already know that we have a video called the wiggle leaf, or the heart-shaped wiggle leaf, which is a very fun leaf to do. This is wiggle leaf part 2, if you will. It's still a wiggle, but it's a little bit different shape. So I will show you both, and we will talk about the differences and how to do this new leaf. So let's take a look at the supplies we're going to use, and then we will jump right in. So we have two colors of paint today. We have Thicket green and Daffodil yellow. These are FolkArt Multi Surface Paints. This is not an endorsed video. I just always believe in sharing with you guys the paints that I use and that I've used for years and that I know work well with this method of painting. So the neat thing about multi-surface too is no matter what you are painting on, this paint will work for you. So whether you're doing a canvas or a wine glass or a tin plaque, this paint is great. It's a little bit thicker than a lot of the craft paints that are out there, and it has a little bit of a sealer in it. So again, works great on every surface. So that's the two colors we're using. We have two paint brushes that we're working with today. We have a number 12 flat brush and a number 1 liner brush, little skinny liner. The brushes I use are actually FolkArt one-stroke brushes, but any flat brush or any liner brush that you guys have at home, honestly in any size, will work fine for what we're doing today. So don't worry about that. Whatever you have on hand is fine. Just so you guys know though, in the description of the video, I will list all of the products that we're using today, just so you have it to refer back to if you can't remember a certain color we used or what size brush. It'll be all in the video description for you. Okay. All right, let me scooch these out of the way and let's look at just a few other supplies that we have. We have our Styrofoam plate here, which is our very fancy paint palette. I already have my blobs of paint on here, but we'll talk about that here in just a sec as far as placement on your plate goes. So again, just Styrofoam plate. On the table here, we have wax paper, and whether you're painting with me in person or if we're painting here on YouTube together, I will always have wax paper. It's a great practice surface. It's nice and smooth, and your strokes flow really well. You can buy a whole roll of wax paper for, just a couple dollars, so it's very cost effective as far as getting started in this this type of crafty painting. So just a little, highly recommend the wax paper. Let's see what else. So I have a brush basin here off in the distance that just has water in it to rinse the brushes. And, I got some paper towels off to the side in case you need those. But that is really about it. So let's take a look at our inspiration for today. I've got a couple different things I'll show you, and then at the end we'll kind of recap and some different project ideas for you. But let me just grab this guy. Okay, so I mentioned in the beginning of the video that we already have another video on my channel with wiggle leaves, and this is the real traditional heart shape. You guys can see that, the green and yellow in here. So just a heart-shaped wiggle. You'll see this leaf everywhere. On that video, we do a smooth version and we do the wiggle version. Okay, so that's what that is. That's a heart-shaped wiggle leaf. Today, we're going to look at a wiggle leaf, but it's a little different shape. It does not have the traditional heart shape going on. It's more of an angular sort of leaf. It still has a wiggle. Okay, and you will still double load two colors, which I'll talk about here in a minute, but it's just a little different shape. So it's really kind of neat when you're doing a project to have an assortment of different leaves. So on this one plaque here, it's just a little wooden plaque, we have 3 leaves. Okay, we have the heart-shaped wiggle leaf, we have your basic leaf, which is here in the brown, and then this third one is just another form of wiggle leaf, and that's what we're going to do today. Both the heart-shaped wiggle and the basic leaf are on my channel. So if those are things you struggle with, trying to just kind of perfect your technique, I highly recommend go back and watch those videos also. The one thing that's really great about painting at home with YouTube is you can start and stop and start and stop as many times as you need to. So really, and honestly, you guys, the more practice you do, the better they get. That's just kind of how these things work. So check out those other videos too if leaves are something that you're really hoping to kind of work on. Those are out there too. Okay, so let's take a look. I'm going to scooch this one off to the side. And I have just another one here just to kind of show you. This is just a piece of cardstock. Okay, so we're going to practice this shape. Again, it's a wiggle leaf, but it's different than the heart shape. It's more angular. So, and these are just some fun fall colors I thought would be neat just to kind of show you. We're going to do our practicing in green, but just some varieties just to kind of give you inspiration. And we'll pull this back out here in just a little bit. Okay, so let's go ahead and get our paint on our plate. So we need 2 blobs. We need one with the green, the Thicket green, and one with the yellow. And then as you're putting them on your plate, leave a little space in between here. We are going to do something called double loading and create a blending spot, and that goes here. So you want a little space in between. As far as how much paint, I usually recommend start off with about the size of a quarter. You can always add more as you go through. So, all right, once we get our blobs of paint on there, we are going to grab our flat brush. This is a number 12 flat. And let's take a look at double loading. So what we're going to do is you're going to hold your brush straight up and down. I'm going to dip one corner in that green, the other corner in the yellow, and then in between these two spots, you want the green by the green and the yellow by the yellow, and we're going to touch our brush down, really squish it down to the plate, pull it towards you, and push away, and towards you, and push away. Now the goal here is to keep the green on the green side and the yellow on the yellow side. Okay, and we're going to do this, dip each corner and blend probably at least 3 or 4 times, you guys. You want a lot of paint worked up into this brush. The other key with double loading is really push that brush down. Can you guys see how the bristles are really flattened onto this plate? Because what you want to do is you really want to swoosh that down, and that's going to work that paint up into that brush. You guys can see how much is on there, and I'm actually going to put a little more on there too. So each time, dip each corner, and then blend, and dip each corner, and blend. So this is the initial double loading. That's what you're doing. As we're painting, you guys will feel when your brush needs more paint, okay? So when it does, you will do exactly what we just did here. You'll come back to your plate, dip each corner, blend, and then keep painting, okay? So every time you need to reload, you come right back here. Now, I will tell you, as people are first starting this method, one thing I see happen a lot is we'll come and dip, and then they'll blend, but they'll move all over the plate. We don't want to do that. We want to stick with this same blending spot, because the goal here is to really work the paint up in the brush, not to paint our plate. We have more fun things that we can paint for sure. Okay, so each time, come back to the same blending spot. You do not want to create a new blending spot each time. Okay. All right, so we should have a good amount of paint. Now, the cool thing about double loading is you can kind of see here, we've got green and yellow, and in between you kind of have a blending of the two colors, which is really cool. So the neat thing about double loading is you'll see when we paint, you get color, highlight, shading all in one stroke. So it's just really a neat effect. Okay, I'm going to set the plate off to the side here. Now, you guys, like we said, when you need to pick up more paint, you will just hop over here, dip each corner, blend, and you'll see me do that several times. I'm very big about picking up fresh paint each time and keeping my colors nice and distinct. All right, so let's take a look at our shape here. Okay, so we're going to start, we build the leaf from the top down. With this particular leaf, I often find it works building it really well to the side. So I'm going to kind of show you on here at an angle, but if it's more comfortable for you guys to build it straight down, or if it's more comfortable to build it to the side, you guys will find that way through practice. So you guys can kind of see. I'm going to kind of go at a side angle just so you'll be able to see the strokes here. But we build from the base of the leaf down, and then we'll come back with our little skinny brush and add our stems. Okay, and you can see, and we'll practice here, we're going to walk through it together, but the yellow is on the center of the leaf here, okay, and our darker color, in this case we'll have green, will be on the outside. So I'll show you what we mean here. All right, so let's talk about how to start building this leaf. All right, so what we want to do is, remember we talked about our green is going to be on the outside. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by creating what will be the top or the base of the leaf. And to do that, we're going to tap, if you picture the top of an arrow, okay, how it comes to a point. So like a tent, like the top of an arrow. And what we're going to do is we want to mark out where we want to start this leaf. So I'm going to start here, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tap here and here. Okay, so I hope you guys can see the angle here. So the yellow is the top of the point, okay, and there's our tap there. So green's on the bottom. And then I'm doing the same thing here. So the yellow and green will be on this side too. So you see the top of an arrow. If there was a line, that would be an arrow that was pointing this way. So what we do then is we are going to match up our colors. I'm going to do the top angle first. So we're going to start here. Okay, and what you're going to do is you're going to lay the brush towards you a little bit, because we're actually going to kind of paint on this side. And then we're going to do some bouncy. Okay, the whole time your brush will stay on the wax paper. As we're brushing and coming around, let me show you here. Okay, you're going to bounce, 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 and then you're going to end up at a point. So you're starting at this angle, you're coming around, and then that green, that color, will be pointing the direction this leaf is pointing. So let me show you what I mean. Let's look at this one together. Okay, now I'm going to kind of go slow. Honestly, I found once you're comfortable with this, the faster you go, the more your leaf flows. But for today, we're just going to kind of move slow. So remember, we're at the top of our arrow. The yellow is in the center. The green is going to be on the outside. And we're going to start here. I'm going to lay it down just a little bit. I'm going to push out and come back, out and come back. See how we're bouncing? Out and come back. Now I'm going to kind of start rotating and then lift, and I'm sliding right on that edge, and that's what brings you to this point. We're going to do this many more times, so you guys will get plenty of practice with this. Okay, so that's the right-hand side of the leaf. Remember, I'm kind of coming at an angle, just so you can kind of see how it works. If it's easier for you to come straight down, that's great. If you are a left-handed painter, you're going to start opposite. You're going to start with your arrow over here and work this way, because you'll be bouncing this direction rather than having to cross over with your left hand what you painted. So right-handed, you're going to bounce to the right. Left-handed painters, you are going to bounce to the left. Okay. All right. So let's come back and we're going to do the second half of the leaf, because this is just one half. So we are coming right back where we left off. Okay. Remember, the yellow is at the top in the center and your green is on the bottom. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to start right on that line that we had made for our marking, the top of that arrow. We're going to squish it down and we're going to bounce and bounce and bounce. And now I'm going to start working my way, sliding up to get that point, and I end up here. Okay, one thing to keep your eye on as you're doing this, as you're bouncing, like this top part, okay, will kind of set where the outer edge is. When you're doing this bottom part, keep your eye on that middle yellow as you bounce to make sure that you're hitting the edge of the half that you already painted. Okay, let's do another one. Okay, and you guys can see I keep reaching over to the plate here, doing the same thing. Dip each corner, blend back and forth. You want to keep a lot of paint worked up into that brush so that these strokes glide smoothly for you. Okay, let's do another guy here. Okay, remember, we're going to start by tapping, tap, tap. So your green is on the outside. Yellow comes together to a point. We want the top of that arrow. Okay. All right, yellow is on the center. My brush is angled down and that green's on the outside. We're going to touch, going to push down and slide out and in, out and in, out and in. And now on this last, I'm going to rotate and slide and lift my brush, and I end up on the edge and then lift. Okay. All right, let me reload some paint here. Now, I will tell you guys, as you're doing more and more painting and you're double loading, it will happen. You will dip in the wrong side. You will dip the green in the yellow or in the yellow and green. It happens, not a big deal. You just grab your your paper towel, wipe it off and reload and keep going. It will happen no matter how long you've been doing this method, I promise. It's not a big deal. Okay, so I just picked up some more paint, so we're going to do this other side. Okay, so remember, we had our top of our arrow, yellows in the center, greens on the bottom, okay? And we're going to bounce, bounce, bounce as we slide down, keeping your eye where those two meet in the middle, where that yellow meets. And you can see I've got green swooshed in there. It doesn't matter. It just adds all kinds of highlights, so no worries about that. All right, we're going to start here on the edge. I'm going to lay it down. I'm going to bounce. I'm going to bounce. I'm going to bounce. And then I'm going to start sliding and lifting and coming down to the point. And then lift. Okay. We're going to do one more. I want you guys to feel pretty comfortable with this. Okay. Paper towel here. Just dripped a little bit over here, so we'll wipe that off. Okay. I'm going to come back and I'm going to get some fresh paint here. Here we go. Remember, blend, blend, blend. Dip each corner. And blend it out. Set that back over. And you can see every time, same blending spot, you guys. Same Same thing we started with. Okay, let's do another one here. So we start with our arrow pointer, okay, our upside down V, however you want to remember it. It can be the top of an arrow, could be an upside down V, could be a little mountain, whatever sticks in your brain, but that's the shape. Now, if you go back and watch that heart video like we talked about, it's a totally different top. It's a V. It's a dent. Here we go. It's a V on top, whereas we're going with an arrow here. So it's a different starting spot. Okay, so we have our top of our arrow. Remember, the yellow's in the center, your green's on the outside. And let me just swoosh this one more time. Okay, and we're here. So we're going to start right on that starting spot. I'm going to lean towards me, squish down, bounce up and down, up and down, up and down. And then we're going to slide, 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 slide as we lift and come up to that edge. All right, let's do the other half. Okay, yellow's in the center, my green is on the outside. We're going to start right on that mark that we made. Lean it towards you, squish down. We're going to bounce up, down and up, down and up. And when we get about here, we're going to start sliding as we lift and come meet at this point and lift up. Okay. All right, so the one thing that's going to make this easier, guys, is just practice them over and over again. Just keep in mind, there's a couple different methods there as far as the bounce. I'm just going to bounce here so you guys can kind of see. Okay, so you're going to start wherever it is you start. And you see, I just want to give you a different angle here. We really lay that brush down, and it's a sliding up and down. And you see those bristles are just spread out. And you just can practice that over and over again, because that's going to give you that bump. Okay, let me do it one more time. I'll go upside down this time just so you guys can see. We'll do it here. Okay, so again, you're up on the brush. You're going to lay it down, fan those bristles out as you slide, and just bounce and bounce. This is a really good practice to kind of give you the feel, okay, and then practice that sliding up on that edge. Okay, so these are things that you can practice before you're even working on perfecting the shape. Practice that bouncing, that wiggle, and that'll give you a good feel with how the brush feels as you flatten it down as you're going. Okay, let's give these guys some stems. Okay, so we're going to pick up our little skinny liner brush. This is a #1 liner. And what we're going to do, now this brush is a lot smaller, so we don't swoosh the paint back and forth like we did on the flat brush. With this guy, you dip it in the paint, okay, and you can see it on there. And then just bring it out to the side and roll it. Can you kind of see my fingertips? We're rolling it in your fingers. Okay, roll it, because what that'll do is that'll get the paint up on the brush, but it'll leave that point nice and narrow for you, versus if you swoosh back and forth, those bristles are just going to be all over the place. So we like them nice and tight together, okay, and you can see. So there's a lot of paint on there, plus that point is narrow, and that's your goal. Okay, let's go. So with stems, as you're doing stems, we work from the outside in to the leaf. So we're going to start here and come down, and you only go about maybe 1/3 or 1/2 at the most with your stem onto the leaf. Leave most of the base open. So you just come out and come in, like we said, about maybe 1/3, maybe 1/2 at the most, but you don't want a big long stem dragged all the way through. You just want that on the top part there. So this brush basically works like a pen or a pencil, if you think of it that way. So we work with it straight up and down. I like to hold it a little closer to the base. I think it gives you a little more control for this fine detail work that we're doing. And if it helps also, your pinky here can rest on the table to sort of give you some balance there. If rather than kind of floating up here, it gives you a little less control. But if you can, rest your pinky, and that'll sort of give you some guidance. Okay. All right, so we're gonna do a stem here. So we are gonna start from the outside, and I'm just gonna go slow. Normally, if you go quick, it works great, but we're gonna start here. I'm gonna pull out, come down at an angle, and come about, like we said, about 1/3 onto the leaf there. Okay, let's do another one here. So I'm going to start on the outside. I'm going to touch, I'm going to slide about no more than halfway onto our leaf. Okay, and let's do one more here. So we're gonna start, I like giving them a little curve, depending, you know, if you're attaching them next to flowers, which we'll talk about here in a sec, you know, you can go different directions. So we're just gonna start and swirl our way in there. Don't be afraid to kind of give it a little curve or a little swirl. That'll work great. Okay, so let's talk for just a quick second about leaf placement with a flower. So if you were doing a bouquet of flowers, you had some daisies or some rosebuds or something beautiful, some sunflowers, and you want to add leaves, you're basically going to start at the flower and work your way out. So for example, if you made let's say you had a rose here or a rosebud, you would paint the flower and then start your leaf at the flower and pull out. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So flower, then your leaves. Okay, so if you had a flower here, your leaf would start at that flower and come down. Now, the project that I showed you earlier didn't even have any flowers, and it was just super cute. We just had some little grapeviney in the back, which there'll be a video coming on grapevines here shortly. And then we just had, again, 3 different leaves. So you remember we talked about this at the beginning. Here was our heart wiggle leaf, and there is a video up on that. This is your basic leaf, and that was an earlier video also, so you can go back and look at both of those. And then here's the more angular wiggle leaf that we did today. So wiggle leaf number 2, if you will. Okay, so again, there's no flowers here. We just have kind of a vine and the leaves going down. Super cute. They're all following the same direction, which is kind of neat, almost like they're, you know, they're kind of hanging or growing that way. Okay, so there's that. I do have one other picture that I did not pull out earlier, and this is kind of the same idea. So here's the colors we used today. Here's your green and yellow. And remember, your darker is always on the outside in this case, and then your yellow or your lighter colors on the inside. This one we threw a couple acorns on, and there's a couple little berries and some fall colors there, but same idea. So everything's kind of flowing in the same direction. If you had a flower on here, you know, you could do a flower here and then have the leaves coming out from the flower. Just when you're doing leaves, just, I guess my biggest piece of advice is just try to have them make sense. If that, you know, if that doesn't sound very clear, but if you have a flower and then you have a leaf down here, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. You want them placed, you know, in next to your flowers, basically, is the idea that we're going for there. Okay, and then one last look. I just love the fall colors on this. So this is our same leaf shape. And, you know, for honorable mention, I will write these colors down in the description so you have them. But this is basically your burnt orange color. It's called Pueblo, the same yellow we have. This is yellow ochre and the same yellow. And then this is, I believe it was real brown or bark brown. I'll double check and I'll put that in the description for you too. But so same leaf, same exact thing, but this gives it a fall flare. Okay, which is pretty neat. Okay, so just to recap, I would practice this little bump wiggle shape that we had here, just to kind of get a feel for that, moving your brush up and down. And then we did the left, or I'm sorry, the right or the top and the bottom, left and right side of the leaf, and then added our stem. Let me lift this up just so you can get a different view of our little funny, these look like funny little caterpillars here. So I'm looking, don't they look like my hungry caterpillar? They kind of do. Okay, so you can kind of get a real good feel there. And you guys, the more you practice, remember we talked about also, you'll get a good feel if they're easier to build sideways or if they're easier to build pulling towards you that way. And you'll get a feel as you practice to kind of have a good idea. So, all right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me for this leaf video today, wiggle leaf number 2. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, if you would consider hitting that like button, I would greatly appreciate it. That just lets me know that you enjoyed it. There is also the subscribe option. If you would go ahead and hit that little option, and then you will be notified when more videos upload. So that would be great. It would mean a lot to me. I really appreciate it. It's just a lot of fun painting here on YouTube. So if you guys have any comments or questions, please throw those in the comment section. And if there's anything that maybe you'd like to see going forward, drop a suggestion in there. I love painting new things and trying new things. So if there's something that you guys would like to see, let me know that also. And that is it for today. Thank you guys again so much, and I hope to paint with you soon. Bye-bye.